You thought shed investment had peaked? Think again. The warehouse sector is more appealing than ever to listed property companies with seriously deep pockets. I'm David Thame, Analysis Editor at Place North. In today's Place podcast, we're exploring how listed property companies are tightening their grip on the post-boom shed scene. We're looking at newly launched plans to speed up planning applications for shops, offices and warehouses, and taking a glance at a new partnership to transform Leeds, and it could be a model for others. It's a moment, a real moment, when Nick Leslau joins the board of any property business. Well known in Manchester and nationally, he's one of the big beasts of real estate. Over the last 3 decades, Leslau has successfully called the top of markets and the bottom of markets, and is a member of the Bank of England Property Forum. As of this month, Leslau is also on the board of London Metric Property after its merger with LXI. The process created a £6.2 billion real estate investment trust. That Leslau is up for a big shed plan is a big sign that the market hasn't yet topped. The REIT is listing on the main market of the London Stock Exchange, and that comes as Tritax also turns in strong results. Tritax is listed too, of course. Between them, investor and investor developer, they show how far big listed money is making big returns from big sheds. The warehouse sector has looked a bit bumpy to some investment analysts who point out that the volume of pre-lets is sharply down on the market's peak. But the top end, which is where these listed businesses dwell, everything's still as beefy as ever. It just requires a bit of flexibility, meaning some fancy footwork in the still oversubscribed big box sector, and some reallocation of assets into small and mid box units where the new business is said to be found. Creative deal making helps in a big box market which is not as hot on pre-lets as it once was. London Metric bought a 213,000 square foot 5-unit Crewe warehouse scheme for £13 million in a deal with vendor Marshall CDP. But helping them smooth income for the new owners, Marshall CDP agreed to take a 3-year lease at a rent of £1.5 million a year. That's a net initial yield of 11%. That means 3 years of guaranteed income for the new owners. If and when a new tenant turns up, London Metric will pay CDP an overage payment based on a fixed percentage of the difference between the initial purchase price and the open market value. The current expectation is that before the 3 years are up, a market rent of about 1.8 million will be agreed, taking the yield down to 8%. Now that's a fairly clever deal. Chief Executive Andrew Jones says the firm will reposition the portfolio, which in this instance means more of better. At the same time as buying in Crewe, for instance, the firm offloaded a 39,000 square foot B&Q retail warehouse in Burnley, no doubt thinking yields in retail warehousing have moved in the wrong direction faster than those for sheds, which have begun to stabilise. London Metric isn't doing badly. Recent deals in the north reveal the direction and the tempo. So we £21 million purchase of a 260,000 square foot Next warehouse in Doncaster, and we balance that against the sale of a 58,000 square foot retail warehousing unit let to the Range and to Little in Durham. Eyes will be firmly fixed on the stock exchange screens very shortly when the firm will announce full year results for the year ending 31 March. It's going to be the 4th of June is when you need to be watching. Good news too from Tritax Big Box REIT, which presides over a £5 billion shed portfolio and which has just reported a rise in rental income. Like-for-like rental value is up 6.9%. Passing rent is up from 205 million in 2022 to 217 million in 2023, which isn't bad when achieved in the midst of a plunge in lettings, because they're down quite sharply from 38 million square feet in 2022 to 22.1 million square feet in 2023. The vacancy rate, however, is still fairly good, 2.5%, a shade up on last year and a shade below London Metric, but certainly nothing to blush about. Like London Metric, the Tritax tactic is to trade away what's not wanted or not quite so highly rated. So they sold about £327 million worth of assets at or above book value, with the proceeds recycled into greener real estate and urban logistics, which is still pretty heavily fancied. Tritax, of course, via Tritax Symmetry, also builds its own stuff, and that's quite a significant difference. Gives them some strengths, also exposes them to some different risks. This element of the business let 2.2 million square feet in the last year, earning £13.6 million in passing rent. They started construction on another 1.7 million square feet, and that's going to add another nearly £16 million to the rental pot. A blizzard of numbers, I'm sorry, but you get the general impression things are going up. Recent deals include 134,000 square feet in Doncaster, let to the dog food business with the amazing name of Butternut Box. The Northwest's own Andrew Dickman is chief executive of this business. He took over in January. Again, another figure well known to Northern property. The appeal here isn't hard to find. Low loan-to-value ratios, longish unexpired leases, rising passing rents, and portfolio valuations that have, after a sharpish drop a short while ago, have generally held their own when all about has crumbled. It's not far too soon to declare that the big shed market has peaked, but it may have done. But the best bits of the market that remains are now in the hands of big money, and that was always the way the shed story would end. So who's going up and who's going down this week in the Place North elevator? Doors closing, going up. Consultation has begun on plans for an accelerated 10-week planning service for some commercial developments. The proposals aim to speed up a process which means at the moment only 1 in 5 significant commercial applications gets decided within 13 weeks, and most take about 28 weeks. The idea is you pay a premium and it all gets done a lot quicker. If they fail to hit the target, you get your money back. What's not to like? Well, the devil is always in the detail, and the detail here makes some wonder if this is going to be much of a useful offer. It will be open to schemes of 10,000 square feet or more, of the kind that get screened as requiring an environmental impact assessment, so the more significant developments. But anything that touches habitats regulations or listed buildings, or ancient monuments or World Heritage sites, or is seeking retrospective consent for development, gets knocked out and won't be able to use the new process. Those that survive this winnowing will quite simply get a place in the queue ahead of everyone else. It's important to bear in mind that the document asserts there will be no loss in scrutiny or no special consideration for these applications. So everything's going to move just as it did before. It's just you're ahead of everyone else in the queue. Basically, local councils have to improve their systems and move faster to accommodate a VIP fast lane. The government's consultation document sounds a little odd because it begins to undercut the whole logic of the proposal by stating, and this is a quote, "Research and engagement with the sector over the last decade has continually highlighted that the most common causes for delay with these types of major development application are inadequate or missing information requirements and the time taken to agree and finalise Section 106 agreements. In other words, it's the applicant's fault. So in order to make it work, applicants are being asked to seek and then listen to pre-application advice, which of course costs, and those costs aren't included in this scheme with its money-back guarantee. They're also asked to talk to statutory consultees in advance, which will obviously speed things up. But of course, if they did this routinely, why would they need to pay extra for an accelerated service? The whole thing feels a bit, well, meh. The government had added the weight of its goodwill last week to plans to spread the economic success of Leeds city centre to the city's wider hinterland. Last week's budget included a Michael Gove-endorsed vision for the city. Much of the document reiterates what the government is already doing, like trams and the investment zone. The new element is a Leeds Transformational Regeneration Partnership, and that's the name they've given it, equipped with 2.7 million to help with the big projects and the delivery of the vision, not least in the 6 neighbourhoods immediately clustered around City Station. The document says we want to see a coherent placemaking vision across the whole of Leeds, rather than the unsatisfactory unfurling of piecemeal development and individual projects, which has a bit of a ring about it. The document's been signed by Gove and City Region Mayor Tracy Brabin and Leeds City Council. The prospectus goes on: the Leeds Transformational Regeneration Partnership between national, regional and local government offers a clear trajectory for change, investment and collaboration, creating welcome certainty for both the public and private sector. Well, this is the usual clotted language of regeneration, but it bodes well if the partnership delivers on its aim of addressing fragmented land ownership and infrastructure barriers, helps prepare sites for development, raises land values, tackles marginally viable sites, and provides more commercial floor space, all of which are said to be its objectives. The partnership also promises to provide a single front door for public funding, financing, and site enabling discussions. It might mean the birth of a light touch model other city regions will want to adopt. So that's it for this week. We've seen how big money, big listed money, is tightening its grip on big sheds, how ministers' efforts to create a fast track for some commercial planning applications may not amount to very much, and at a new way to work together to transform Leeds. For more about the built environment in the north, visit placenorth.co.uk. I'm David Thame, and thank you for listening.